Introducing 2023 Chevy Corvette Z06. The 2023 Corvette Z06 is officially here with a new flat plane crank, 5.5-liter V8 engine. It makes 670 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque and routes through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. Production will start in summer 2022. Engineer in charge of the Corvette's mid-engine design Tadjukter is honest about the true motivation behind the change. When we went mid-engine, the argument for it wasn't the standard car. While the 10 best winning Stingray benefits greatly from a mid-engine layout, the 2023 Corvette Z06, a wingless wide-body supercar designed with the enthusiast in mind, is the driving force for the development of a new chassis with the engine in the center. Jukter elaborates, saying, "The higher horsepower cars gain the most from obtaining all of that traction in the back." The 2014 Mercedes-Benz SLS-AMG Black Series was powered by a 6.2-liter fire-breathing engine, but the all-new double overhead cam, DOHC, 5.5-liter V8 is more powerful, producing 670 horsepower. If you think that the Porsche 911 GT3's 4.0-liter flat 9,000 RPM 6 call to prayer sounds like Recaro releasing a saddle in today's turbocharged and electrified world, you haven't heard it. Supercharging increased output on the previous generation Z06, but Chevy received plenty of input that the Z06 should revert to the high-revving LS7 of the 6th generation Corvette. Only drivers who can appreciate the subtle differences between naturally aspirated and turbo or hybrid vehicles would opt for the latter. There is no manual transmission available because Chevrolet chose not to go to such lengths and instead offers only a dual-clutch 8-speed automatic. Although we haven't yet gotten behind the wheel of a Z06, we have heard its powerful motor. Our skin crawled and our hair stood on end. For the most part, Chevrolet is correct in calling the LT6 engine used in the Z06 a clean sheet design. The 4.4-inch bore center, however, remains a constant feature. All Chevrolet small block V8s have this measurement, which characterizes the space between piston centers within a single cylinder bank. The C4ZR1's LT5, the last DOHC engine in a Corvette, with 4.4-inch bore centers thanks to the Lotus-designed head. To heck with the fact that the LT6 designation was also used for a fleeting 4.3-liter V6 diesel engine in Oldsmobiles. The new LT6 is a game-changer in the making. Before being installed in a new Z06, every engine will undergo a 20-minute break-in on a dyno and be evaluated to ensure it performs as expected, a first for GM. The engine has a maximum horsepower rating of 8,400 RPM, which is quite close to the 8,600 RPM fuel cut, and a maximum torque rating of 460 lb-ft. It's no surprise that Ferrari V8s reach peak power at redline. The engineering staff knows that increasing the LT6 RPM will increase its power, therefore they intend to do it. It's surprising that GM would design a new engine with such a short stroke and a fat bore in this era of increased focus on electrification and fuel economy in the automobile industry. A cylinder with these measurements, 104.25 mm x 80.0, would have a displacement of 5.5 liters. There is a 12.5-to-1 compression ratio. And technical people interested in such things, the mean effective pressure of the brakes is greater than 1,400 kilopascals. A supercharged engine lacks the personality of a flat-plane crank V8, which is why the C8 crew didn't opt to install one. As we suspected, part of the charm was lost when GM switched from the Ferrari 458 to the turbocharged 488 during development. As a result, 458 more were purchased. In spite of its convenience, flat-plane cranks aren't without their flaws. Those familiar with the high-revving Ford Mustang Shelby GT350 and its 5.2-liter V8 will understand. They tremble violently. To the point where an oil filter backed off on a test stand during LT6 development. The engineers thought maybe a technician hadn't tightened it all the way, but the video evidence showed otherwise. Changing to a cartridge filter instead of a screw-on one fixed the problem. Using titanium for the connecting rods and intake valves helps to keep the mass of the reciprocating parts low, hence reducing the forces at play. Sodium is used to fill the exhaust valves. Each of the 32 valves has 2 springs attached to it to ensure that the valves stay closed even at high RPM. Shims are used in the assembly process of direct-acting finger followers, which are coated in something similar to diamond. Jordan Lee, GM's worldwide head engineer for small block engines, has a simple motto: Lash for life. Engine displacement is increased over pushrod models thanks to CNC machined DOHC heads. The C7 engine had stricter size constraints in both the vertical and horizontal planes, since expanding either would have necessitated reducing the height of the hood or the breadth of the footwell. Those factors are less of a problem because the engine is located behind the passenger compartment. The C8's engine length constraints explain why its designers stuck with the small bore block spacing. GM's specialized lower crankcase can be found in this block. Each crank journal has its own hermetically sealed compartment, much as Ferrari's dry sump designs. Each of the 6 compartments, the bays and heads, has its own oil scavenge pump. There are 2 plenums, 2 87mm throttle bodies, 3 valves connecting the plenums, and 8 stunning trumpets that make up the intake. Crossover valves are used to fine-tune the intake for maximum efficiency at both high and low engine speeds. The most sensible option would be to use direct fuel injection. Instead of injectors spraying fuel into the cylinders on the intake side of the heads, near the V, as in the Indy V6 that Chevrolet originally developed, the injectors are placed between the exhaust valves. Fuel sprayed into the air intake increases the rate of descent, the motion and mix of air and fuel. A higher rate of tumble results in a better burn. When compared to the optional C8, the standard model is certainly not boring. The technical team's description of how they sharpened and scalpelized the Z06 to make the purest driving Corvette ever makes the Stingray sound like a muscle vehicle from the 1970s. The idea is to provide a driving experience that feels as urgent as the roaring motor, while also being approachable and having an unbelievable depth of capabilities that a skilled driver can continue to tap into. Stiffer powertrain mounts not only allow the Tremec 8-speed dual-clutch automatic to shift more quickly and crisply, but also transfer more of the engine's vibrations and character to the driver's posterior. Helper springs are now required to keep the correct check load when the Corvette is at full jounce, marking the first time such severe spring rates have been used. Vehicle Performance Manager Alex McDonald explains that new control arm bushings have almost a spherical bearing up top. In an interesting twist, McDonald claims the Z06 deviates from the current trend of having track tires that are at their best in the opening couple of laps. The Z06 new Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 rupees was developed in collaboration between the Corvette team and the tire manufacturer. McDonald notes that the fastest lap times for development drivers are being recorded 10 laps into the race. Z06 forged aluminum wheels measure in at 20-inch up front and 21 down back. Wheels constructed of carbon fiber by Carbon Revolution are an option. They are far stiffer and lighter than their predecessors, allowing designers to fine-tune the steering and magnetorheological dampers. Yes, the settings vary depending on the wheel, and McDonald claims that using carbon wheels can reduce your lap time. In addition to the conventional fender flares, which house the 275/30ZR20 front and 345/25ZR21 rear tires, the Z06 also features distinctive front and rear fascias. To accommodate the Z06's much larger brakes, it has larger wheels. The front and rear iron rotors are 14.6 and 15.0 inches, respectively, which is 2.0 and 1.2 inches larger than the Z51 Stingray. There are carbon ceramic rotors measuring 15.7 and 15.4 inches in diameter that come standard with the Z07 kit. Due to the aerodynamic advantages of the C8's mid-engine layout, the Z07 package's comparatively low wing generates far more downforce and less drag than the massive wing of the previous ZR1. High-speed stability and handling are improved with the help of an inactive front splitter and canards.